as the administration of the tax regime, the assessment and all that comes with it. Then the third one, you have the Nigerian Revenue Service Establishment Act, which established the Nigerian Revenue Service, that is the NRS. That body will replace the FIRS. We have it. And then finally, we have the Joint Revenue Board of Nigeria Establishment Act. Establishes the Joint Revenue Board, creates the tax ombudsman or tax ombudsman. We all know what the ombudsman is. So we created it. As I'm sure one pertinent question I asked myself when these innovations in the tax regime were introduced. I asked myself one pertinent question. I don't know how many of us ask ourselves that question. So the tax reforms are welcome. They welcome the government. But what is the benefit for the citizens? So is it just for us to keep paying tax? And yet we don't have the right to ask for demand for accountability. All the monies you pay the government, you have the right to challenge the government and ask for accountability. You have the right to challenge the incessant taxes that the president of the association pointed out in the past 1 week or 2 weeks. A lot of premises were sealed. A lot of people were arraigned in court for breach of one government link or the other. I don't want to call them taxes because for me, most of those things are not taxes. They are not recognized by law. For me, that's my personal opinion. Now, I've done an executive summary of the 2025 Nigerian tax report, and I've compartmentalized them into 4 main points. 4 main takeaways. Modernize administration. Of course, the Act has streamlined tax collection and enhanced compliance. So before now, you know, the country has been through a lot of tax reforms. I'll call them half-hearted tax reforms, directed at unifying a tax regime in Nigeria so that not when you leave Umuahia, maybe on your way to Lagos, at the door, they will arrest you. Now you didn't find this emblem on your head. So the federal government came up with Taxes and Levies Act, streamlining what taxes were due to the states, what taxes the states legislate on, and what taxes they collect. By the way, most portions of that act have been struck down at the Supreme Court. I'm sure we have read the case of Attorney General of Adizua State and Imo Transport Company. The Supreme Court said that the infrastructural development levy constitutes a breach of the citizen's right to immovable property. It's a compulsory acquisition of immovable property of our citizens, and struck down certain provisions as being unconstitutional. Despite the fact that, yes, the Supreme Court agreed that the Adizua State legislature had the competence to legislate on those points, but that the infrastructural development levy does not fall within the purview of tax, duty, or rate as contemplated by the Constitution. So I would like us to read that decision. So, going back to the executive summary on this topic, I said the new tax regime introduces a modernized administration that is relying on collection and enhanced compliance through uniform procedures. Then, through intergovernmental coordination, fosters greater cooperation between federal, state, and local governments. Some improvement from the Taxes and Levies Act. Through expanded tax base, in our C&C's language, widen tax rates to drive those that have been evading tax, avoiding tax. Particularly those on social media that make money from marketing, online, digital services, content creators, and the likes. They are now active. So if you're a content creator, you are fully employed in the Nigerian context, and you are liable to pay tax. So for those that say they are content creators, then international alignment. Of course, our fiscal policies are now aligned to the international best practices. For instance, we have the OECD and the BEPS standardizing taxes paid by multinationals. We'll come to that in the course of this paper. So what were our pre-reform challenges? Something gave rise to the new tax regime that made the federal government and the National Assembly introduce this new tax regime, this overhaul of our tax system to cure certain defects. So we have historically grappled with significant fiscal constraints that limited government's capacity for infrastructural and social investments. Now, some of these constraints have itemized them. Low tax to GDP ratio. Of course, we know what GDP is, the gross domestic product, that is totality of goods and services rendered and consumed within our states in Nigeria. So the ratio to tax is very poor, or rather, the tax ratio to the GDP is poor. I put up a graph. I'll share the slide. I'll share the slide maybe to the president, then we'll circulate to others. I put up a graph to show the historical range of our GDP ratio from 6% to 10%. Of course, that has occasioned limited capacity of the federal government to provide infrastructural facilities and bring us up from being a third world country to maybe what we can obtain in more civilized times.